Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you very much to the organizers for inviting me here to represent the Council of Europe, discussing with you some work that we have recently undertaken in the area of artificial intelligence. As you see on the title of my presentation, and I might just give you a little background, we have for some time now been working on a draft Council of Europe Framework Convention on Artificial Intelligence and Human Rights, Democracy and the Rule of Law, which is intended to be a global instrument for governance of artificial intelligence. It is and has been intended from the beginning to be an open instrument in the sense that non-Council of Europe member states can also join it, based on the experiences we had with, in particular, the Budapest Convention on cybercrime. And we have now, I'm pleased to say that on the 14th of March, the Committee on Artificial Intelligence, which is composed of the 46 member states of the Council of Europe, plus the European Union, plus, which is also there, plus a number of other states from around the globe, including all the G7 states that have been involved and are involved in AI issues at that level. And that also, of course, includes the European Union. We reached agreement on this draft framework convention, which is now with our Committee of Ministers, which are the Ministers of Foreign Affairs, and they are expected to adopt it on the 17th of May. It will then be open for signature and will enter into force after it has 5 ratifications. But this was just by starting out to say a little few words. Perhaps those of you who are less familiar with the Council of Europe, it's Europe's largest intergovernmental organization. It was set up in 1949. It has 46 member states, as I mentioned, and 5 observer states on a permanent basis: Canada, the Holy See, Japan, Mexico, and the United States. And it is, of course, as you will also see, it's best known for the European Court of Human Rights, which is part of this organization. And it has, for many years, now this convention that I just mentioned, this framework convention, will be convention number 225 of the Council of Europe since 1949. And we have been producing a series of globally legally binding standards including in the protection of personal data, in bioethics, cybercrime, for which we are here today to discuss, and of course, as I also mentioned now, the idea is to look into artificial intelligence, ensuring that we have both innovation and adequate protection of human rights. I don't know, maybe, yeah, there we come. As I mentioned, we have the European Convention. You see here the Convention 108 Plus and the Budapest Convention from 2001, the Convention on Cybercrime. This is just for your background information. We started working in 2019, first with a feasibility study and a list of possible elements that could go into a legally binding instrument that could be of an international nature. And that was succeeded. This was work done by the CAHI, the Ad Hoc Committee on Artificial Intelligence, which ended its term in 2021. And it was succeeded by the Committee on Artificial Intelligence, which has where work is still ongoing, but where we are now, as I said, finalized the negotiations of the Framework Convention. And we are then working on an accompanying methodology for the risk and impact management of AI systems from the point of view of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, what we call HUDERIA, with a wonderful abbreviation. And this is some work that is intended to be finalized by the end of this year. Now, we also have, and this is just to tell you, we also, of course, have our summits and our heads of state and government at the Reykjavik summit on the 16th and 17th of May last year, expressly committed to ensuring a leading role for the Council of Europe in developing standards in the digital era to safeguard human rights online and offline, including by finalizing as a priority this framework convention, which we have now done so far so good. Now, as was mentioned previously, of course, and as you all are very well aware, most of these technology issues cannot be dealt with from a purely regional or even domestic point of view. this is not the way to deal with issues that are essentially cross-border in their nature. And that also, of course, goes for technology like AI. The vast majority of companies that are developing entities, universities included, that are involved in researching and developing AI systems are not placed in Europe. This is a regrettable fact, at least for the time being, but it is a regrettable fact, and it's something that we need to take into account. If we want to have adequate protection for European citizens, we need to work with the rest of the world. And that is also the philosophy behind having an AI convention that is open to non-European states. This is why it was decided to open up the negotiations already in order to make sure that there's a broad ownership of this kind of instrument, and then to hope that we can engage with as many states as possible globally to set up and create standards that will become benchmark globally in terms of protecting human rights, rule of law, and democracy. Now, we only need to cast a look around us at the world today, and we'll understand why this is an important issue to deal with. Democracies have never been under more pressure than they are today. Rule of law has never been under more pressure, both internationally and regionally, than it is today. And so human rights issues, it is the same question. It is the same story, regrettably, that human rights are increasingly being seen as something that you can do away with or which stand in the way of the necessary progress. So we need to have a way of reconciling that, and we need to have as many states on board that will sign up to these basic values, which sometimes are presented as European, but I would say they are rather global. They all stem from the UN Pact. They all stem from the original ideas that we have as humans some basic dignity and some basic rights that need to be defended. We all need a rule of law. We all need to be relying on the fact that there's someone who will protect us if our rights are broken, and someone who can enforce obligations, be that in relationship to the state or between citizens themselves. And we also need to make sure that we are taking care of our democracies, that we can promote them, democratic processes globally, and obviously, of course, and protect them against interference, not least. I mean, not everyone around the world do see democracy in the same terms as we do here. But I think it's important to bear in mind that even though you cannot come up with a unifying description of what a democracy is, we all know what it is that actually threatens these democracies. And AI, as much good as it can bring, can also be used to undermining in a very serious manner the functionings of democracy. So it's important that we have as many states around the world to join us in this effort, and that we're not looking at this from a purely European point of view. And this is why we had, in addition to the EU, which negotiated this convention on behalf of its member states, which are all at the same time also member states of the Council of Europe, we have all the observer states, Canada, Japan, the Holy See, Mexico, and United States of America, and a number of important non-member states, Australia, Argentina, Costa Rica, Israel, Peru, and Uruguay, who actively and constructively participated in the negotiations in our committee. There was also a lot of civil society participation. We had a multi-stakeholder involvement both in the CAHI and in the CAI, and we have had made sure to also involve, apart from civil society, also academia and industry representatives. We need to have as broad a base as possible to be able to create ownership for this kind of initiatives. And these are the 68 non-state observers that all participated in the negotiations or contributed to them in one way or the other. Now, I will go very quickly because we are a little bit short on time. Say a few words about what the aim is with the Framework Convention. It formulates fundamental principles and rules which are intended to safeguard human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, but at the same time they have to be conducive to progress and technological innovation. So the idea is not to ban the technology, the idea is to ensure that there are certain guardrails around this technology that will enable us as citizens, as states, as authorities of the states, we are all there in one way or the other to take care of our rights and to be able to enjoy the fruits of this technology without having necessarily to worry all that much about whether this technology can also be abused. All technologies can be abused. All technologies will be abused. We know that. But at the end of the day, the stronger guardrails you put around the technology from the beginning, the better you are able to use its positive potential and to limit the probability that things go wrong, or if they go wrong, that you at least ensure that you have proper safeguards to deal with that. I think it's important to underline that the Council of Europe Framework Convention on AI will apply to both public and private sector AI systems. It's not only the public sector, though it is in the public sector that the majority of breaches of human rights take place, and where the majority of issues related to, for instance, rule of law also take place, though not entirely and only, and we all know that if we have been dealing with criminal law and prevention of crime, that also, of course, private actors can play a strong role. That is even more the case when we talk about democracy. Major news outlets are, and we are happy to have it that way, not necessarily owned by the states or even controlled in any way by the states. That is private actors, but they may have a play and come to play a very important role in dissemination of news, including fake news and including impersonations that are AI generated and therefore can in some way or the other could be used to undermine democracies and democratic processes. So this is why it's important to make sure that the convention applies across the board. The convention does not create new human rights, but it is a facilitation convention. It ensures that the existing human rights, be that in the Council of Europe system, or in the UN system, or in any other regional system around the world, will be applicable seamlessly in an AI context. We do not, and this was our greatest concern from the beginning, we do not wish to create, or even by mistake, create a loophole for AI, in the sense that AI would be a vacuum where the international law and domestic law, for that matter, did not apply, because no one could say that who had done it. It was the machine, it was the algorithm that did it, and therefore no one was to be held responsible, no one was to be able to control this. This was the situation we would like to avoid. We ensure that there are the rights that exist. We believe that they are adequate to protect us, also in the case of an AI system being involved, but we also think that it's necessary to make absolutely clear that where an AI system is involved, the same rights apply as if AI systems are not involved, and the same obligations. Now, we have the problem that a convention needs to be future-proof in the sense that it has a duration, sometimes of maybe 100 years. And in that case, we do not need to have, we need to make sure that we are technology neutral, because the technology we're dealing with today and the technology that we would like to regulate today may not be the one we are dealing with in 2 years' time, let alone in 50 years' time. And therefore, we think it is more important to concentrate on the basic principles underlying the use of technology than on the technology itself. So these are the fundamental principles. These are human dignity, individual autonomy, equality and non-discrimination, protection of privacy, and personal data protection. These are basic principles that are protected in the new convention, and which states that will sign up to it will have undertake to continue protecting in an AI context. And in addition to that, we also have some principles that are new and specific in a way to AI, which are transparency and oversight, accountability and responsibility. And then we have a principle of safe innovation and reliability of AI systems in order to make sure that we can create some element of trust in this kind of technology, which is, I think, absolutely sine qua non for being able to harness its good sides. There also needs, of course, to be remedies, procedural rights and safeguards, the obligation to document, to provide information, to be able to contest decisions made or substantially based on the use of AI system. and the use of the system itself, and also an effective possibility to lodge a complaint to competent authorities. You should not, just because you are dealing with an AI system, find yourself in the situation where you're no longer able to contest a decision that has been taken by a public authority, or for that matter by a private entity such as a bank on a loan or on your insurance company, etc. I will go on here, I will be very quickly summing up, but we continue with a number of procedural rights and safeguards that also are to be included. These are not new, none of them, but what is clear here in this convention is that they will apply where AI systems are being used. And then we come to risk and impact management requirements. AI systems have a tendency to develop over time, and therefore there is a need to continue in it to both assess their impact and the risks they pose. They may not be the same at the outset of the AI system's life cycle as towards the end of it. And throughout that period, you would need to make sure that the AI system remains safe to use in terms of protection of human rights, rule of law, and protecting democracy. So this has to be an iterative assessment cycle. And therefore also, of course, you need to be able to either mitigate the risks that you detect along the way of developing the cycle of in the life cycle of the AI system, and you need to be able to, if needed, to take the system out of use, to ban its use, or to put a moratorium on its use because you're not able to mitigate the risks in a sufficient manner. And for this, we would have developed the Huderia system, which we have now, which will not be binding, unlike the convention itself, but will be a tool that can be applied by states and other parties, including the EU, to this convention, which will assist them in implementing the convention correctly. Now, the AI Act was mentioned before. There is a complete complementarity between the AI Act and the Council of Europe Convention, Framework Convention. The Council of Europe Framework Convention is an international legal instrument. It's a treaty. It is between states across the world. The EU AI Act will be one of the ways that the EU will implement its obligations under this treaty, if it signs and ratifies, which we believe it will. But the AI Act will be the way that it is applied, that this treaty is applied in the European Union states. We often talk about Europe as meaning the European Union, but as a matter of fact, Europe is a much larger area. It has 19 other states that are also parts of Europe and parts of the Council of Europe, including, for instance, Turkey, Azerbaijan, Georgia, the Balkan states that are not already in the European Union, Moldova and other states. So essentially, you need to make sure that, and this is what we have here, what applies in the EU will of course apply in the EU. This is the AI Act. But at the larger level, the global level, you need to be able to interact as well. And the European Union will be able to interact through this convention with, for instance, United States, if they both become parties to it. Yes. So now we are coming towards the end of my presentation. I just want to tell you a little bit about the next steps. There's the adoption in the Committee on Artificial Intelligence. It was originally foreseen for the 14th of March. It will now take place. This took place, and it will be on the 17th of May. We will have the formal adoption in the Committee of Ministers. There's an ongoing consultation in the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, which is kind of our parliament, and they will come up with an opinion on this tomorrow, as a matter of fact, and then we will be able to move to the next. Now, if you have more questions, you're welcome to look at our websites. I'm also, of course, available. You're very welcome to contact me. A few words, very few words, about AI and cybercrime. Cybercrime, as was mentioned before, all technologies can be abused, but AI will certainly be abused. Impersonation, for instance, or any other kind of the sheer ability of AI systems to perform will make them powerful tools for criminals and for states. We need to look into cybercrime, not only cybercrime, but cybersecurity when we deal with this kind of powerful technologies. But the good side is as was also mentioned by the previous speaker, that AI systems can also be used to detect and prevent crimes. So this is what I would end my presentation here by saying. We should take the dangers and the risks very seriously, but we should not end up in a doom mode. We should look at the abilities and the options that this kind of new technology also offers us, including in fighting crime. Thank you very much.